Happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there, all grandmothers out there, all grandaunts out there. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers of the 50,000 or so American Marines, sailors, troops uselessly deployed to the Persian Gulf. While Donald Trump worships at his own golden statue, redecorates, plays golf, riffs with journalists making idle threats about nuclear holocaust, while his sons invest in defense companies that have huge contracts with the Pentagon, while his son-in-law runs around those same Gulf countries demanding investments into his affinity private equity, while he acts as some sort of a genius diplomat along with his sidekick Witkoff. So yeah, happy Mother's Day to all those mothers wondering why the hell their children are sitting in the Persian Gulf as sitting ducks, either targeted by Iranian missiles or false flags to incite more war. I think of all the mothers also of the 20,000 sailors who are stranded in the Persian Gulf and are not being helped by anybody to get back home. You have to also think about the mothers of all the children who have been slaughtered in Gaza and just yesterday in Lebanon by the IDF. Oh my God, what about the mothers of the children, the elementary school children in Minab, who were killed by American strikes? They're still sleeping on the graves of their children. Every night they sleep on those graves. What about them? So I have a lot of thoughts swirling around in my head. I'm trying to do this without notes, so I'm sure I'm going to forget a few things. But yesterday, a news item appeared from the Wall Street Journal, and I wasn't sure if it was fake news or real news because it was so outlandish and yet not outlandish that I thought, okay, let's wait to see if other news agencies pick it up. And sure enough, not just the Wall Street Journal, but Reuters and other news agencies have picked it up. And even the Dawn News English from Pakistan picked it up and actually made a video about it. So I'll play that video so you can see, or rather you can hear what it is I'm talking about. Basically, the news item was that just ahead of the Iran war, Israel invaded Iraq with special forces and set up a base in Iraq. It was discovered by an Iraqi shepherd who warned the Iraqi authorities. And when Iraqi soldiers went to investigate, the Israelis fired on them and killed an Iraqi soldier. So the story really is about an invasion of Iraq by Israel, occupation of Western Iraq by Israel, and then the murder of an Iraqi soldier by Israel. So we didn't realize that Israel was at war with Iraq and had occupied a part of Iraq. But apparently they had, with the full complicity of the US. Because remember, the US has bases in Iraq. The US and Israel had concocted a civil war in Iran by arming the Kurdish Iranians sitting on the border of Iraq and Iran. The whole idea was to collapse Iran from inside. So, the Israelis, who have full impunity, unleashed, went in to Iraq, occupied it under cover of the US, and were discovered by a shepherd. And then they did what Israeli army does. They killed people. Here is the news item. Israel built and defended a secret base in Iraq for Iran war, Wall Street Journal reports.
According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, Israel allegedly set up a clandestine military outpost in the Iraqi desert to support its air campaign against Iran. The report, citing people familiar with the matter including U.S. officials, says the installation was used as a logistical hub for the Israeli Air Force and also housed special forces. It further claims that the base included search and rescue teams positioned to assist in case any Israeli pilots were down during operations. The report adds that the facility was established with the knowledge of the United States shortly before the start of what it describes as a U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. The Wall Street Journal also reports that Israel conducted airstrikes against Iraqi troops who reportedly came close to discovering the installation. According to one of the sources cited in the report, Iraqi forces were dispatched after Iraqi state media said a local shepherd had reported unusual military activity in early March, including helicopter movements in the area. The report says Iraqi troops moved to investigate the suspected activity, but Israeli forces allegedly used airstrikes to keep them at a distance and prevent the site from being discovered. Reuters notes that it could not independently verify the claims made in the report. It also adds that there was no immediate response from the Israeli Prime Minister's office to a request for comment.
This is how dangerous Donald Trump and Netanyahu have made our world. Because this, had it been discovered, would have possibly ignited a world war. Now, who all was complicit in this, who all knew about this, that remains to be discovered. I am sure there'll be more reporting on this, but for now, it is enough to say that this is news that should, be disturbing to everybody. So Israel is occupying parts of Lebanon and bombing the whole country with impunity. Israel is occupying parts of Syria and bombing and killing Syrians with impunity. Israel occupied a piece of Iraq and killed an Iraqi soldier. We don't know if they killed more people. Israel bombed and bombed Iran. Israel is bombing and massacring people inside Gaza. Israel has fully blockaded access to Gaza, and they're saying they will destroy anybody who tries to end the blockade of Gaza, which means anybody who tries to end the hunger, the deprivation, the horror inside Gaza. Israel is occupying the West Bank. Israel is threatening Turkey. Folks, to me, this sounds like there is one entity that is lighting the world on fire. While Trump redecorates and prays at his own, worships at his own golden statue, this is what his bosom buddy Netanyahu is up to. We understand from news today that Saif and Thiago, the two humanitarian activists who were trying to get through the blockade to feed and provide medicine to Gazans, they have been released and are on their way back out of Israel. Apparently, Tiago has been flown out to Egypt, and apparently Saif is on his way back to Barcelona. And we will hear more from them about what they have witnessed. We already know that what they witnessed in Israeli jails and what was done to them was absolutely, absolutely horrendous. So we can only imagine with their testimony and the testimony of Ali Samodi, the Palestinian journalist who Jeremy Diamond interviewed, just with their testimonies, we can only imagine what is going on to Palestinian detainees, what has been done to them in what I call Israeli death camps. The other piece of news is that Iran has now responded to the American peace proposal, or whatever we want to call it. And from the earlier reporting, it seems that Iran has still said that the nuclear negotiations will have to be parked for phase 2 for a later date. And yes, Qatari ship tanker, LNG tanker, crossed the strait on an Iranian designated route to Pakistan. And apparently, another ship has crossed the Strait of Hormuz on an Iranian designated corridor. Iran will not give up its leverage on the strait. Absolutely not. And they very well know that Donald Trump does not want Iran to overshadow the meeting in Beijing with Xi Jinping. That Trump very much wants it to be about business, about chips, about tariffs, about whatever, but not Iran. He is visiting he is visiting China next week. So let us see what that brings. But for now, it seems that two things will dominate the talks. It will be Iran and it will be Taiwan. Probably two of the topics that Donald Trump does not want to talk about, and two of the topics that he is absolutely not educated enough about. Except for bluster and bullshit, we really don't know how those talks are going to go. There is no match between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. There really isn't. So beyond the pomp and circumstance and the optics of two strong men, and, clearly Donald Trump is a little bit intimidated by Putin and Xi Jinping and even the North Korean leader. He was overawed by Orban, who is gone. And speaking of Orban, we know that both J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio have 2028 ambitions. J.D. Vance is probably the most unpopular vice president in the history of the United States. But most lately, he is tarnished with his image of trying to get Orban re-elected and campaigning with Orban and spewing nonsense about Europe and the EU and saying some pretty horrendous things to the Pope. To the Pope. So that is what J.D. Vance is tagged with. As Magyar and the Hungarians celebrate reclaiming their country, there will be image of J.D. Vance trying to push completely the opposite, helping a European dictator stay in power beyond 17 years. And Marco Rubio, he is tagged with reveling on the plight of Cubans, engineering a blockade, engineering potential starvation, destroying Cuba's medical corps, the doctors who fanned out all over Latin America and the Caribbean, providing healthcare where healthcare was not available to the populations in places like Guyana and places like Venezuela. Marco Rubio will be tagged with the plight, loss of energy, food, medicines, vaccines, to Cuba. So these are the two 2028 candidates right now in the minds of themselves and potentially the Republican Party. That is what they are tagged with. So I'm not sure those images and that reputation is going to go down well for either candidate. Anyway, happy Mother's Day to everybody. Let us see what we find out about what's in Iran's response to the United States. And of course, they have sent that response via Pakistan. So let us see how that pans out as the day goes by.